Rosie from Sacramento, and yes, I'll just give a quick update and then we'll get started. So if we didn't get to you, please put in the chat. Welcome everybody if you're just getting here to our live stream Yin Yoga class. We're going to be doing this once a month for subscribers to the site, and Saturdays, first Saturday of the month at this time, 9 a.m. Pacific time. So welcome. So go ahead and put it in the chat if we didn't get to you. And today we have a 1-hour Yin Yoga practice that we're going to get started in right now. So I'd like you to begin in child's pose. And be sure to mute yourself, please. Actually, I'm going to do a thing where I mute everyone. I think I still know how to do that. All right, there are 18 of us here. How exciting. Mute all. There we go. Okay, so go ahead and begin in child's pose. And in your child's pose, you could have your forehead on a block or stack your hands and put your forehead on your hands. And settle into feeling your body, starting to inhabit this body with your awareness, feeling your back, feeling the glutes, feeling whatever it is that's being stretched in this pose, maybe the knees, maybe the tops of the feet and the shins as they rest on the ground. And take 3 more breaths right into the back. So letting the breath broaden across the back body from shoulder to shoulder and from shoulders down to hips, down to the sacrum. And now coming up and making your way forward onto your elbows for Sphinx pose. Today we will take 4 minutes in Sphinx, and you can do this on the elbows with the palms down, or with the hands holding opposite elbows, or with the hands clasped. So really any arm or hand position is fine. It's about the lower back sensation. So 4 minutes in Sphinx, or I'll give you a halfway point where we can move up into a seal pose as an option. Or you can stay here in Sphinx for the whole time. And so if you are someone who loves the seal pose, you could do it for the whole 4 minutes if you wish. Your legs could be comfortably separated here or closer together for a little more sensation in the lower back. Feel free to play around with that. And noticing what's happening inside of your body, and noticing your mind's reaction to what's happening in the body. Back bends cause a particular kind of reaction in the mind that can be different than the more stretchy forward bending positions, because back bends we get into this feeling of compression in the spine, which is something that we consider to be an okay and even a good thing in Yin Yoga, is to place a controlled therapeutic amount of stress on the spine, on the discs, on the vertebrae, in order to keep these tissues, keep the fascia of the spine, the bones healthy, and to keep the range of motion at its best. And now we're halfway through, so if you're taking the seal pose, you're straightening the arms, palms down, and lifting up. So variables here are whether the hands are pointed out more, fingers pointed out, or forward, and then also whether the hands come closer in or farther out in front of you. So this is a less intense, less steep back bend, and this is a more intense. Hands can be closer together or far apart. Feel around, feel it out. And try and get to that place where you can feel your bones just stacking in the arms. Check out what your shoulders are doing, and contrary to how this back bend in yoga is taught as when it's called cobra pose, where we're always trying to lift up the head and get the shoulders depressed, here you can play around with that. You can let the shoulders come up. You don't have to if it doesn't feel right to you, but it's something to consider as a more yin way to do the back bend and just let the spine be kind of like hanging like a hammock. If that's uncomfortable to you, play around with the shoulder position, move them around to find what's right. And also feel free if you feel any pain or discomfort and you feel like you need more protection around your lower back, then you can engage your glutes, you can engage your belly as much as you like. Or if it's comfortable to you to totally relax the belly and the glutes, then that's completely fine here. And you're welcome, as I said, to just be staying in the Sphinx pose the whole time. And releasing down, roll slowly onto your belly and stack your hands, rest your forehead on your hands and rest here. And feel what's happening in your back after coming out of the pose. Maybe some sense of heat or pressure in the back. And notice how that sensation moves and radiates outward, or whatever it is that's happening inside of you. Noticing, bringing your awareness to the body completely. And now lifting the head, place the hands on either side of the chest, press up and back into child's pose, and rest here in child's pose, bending the back the opposite way. All right, and slowly come up now, and come up to sit on your heels. And if this doesn't work for your body, use a block under your seat, or 2 blocks under your seat, or sit cross legs. That's fine for what we're about to do. So we're going to build up into this posture, or this movement series of postures, called the rolling panda. Rolling panda is an upper body yin kind of sequence. And it's for we're going to begin working into the right shoulder and trapezius. And I've been getting requests for shoulder stuff lately, so that's why we're working with this. Let's take the right hand across the body, and then with your left hand, draw the arm toward you. And the target area of this stretch is the posterior deltoid. And now this is not the actual pose. This is just a warm-up where I mostly want you to understand what we're going for when we actually get into the rolling panda pose. So this is the first target area. We're going to have a phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. The first target area is this outer shoulder and upper arm, the posterior deltoid area. Actually, this is the second one. I skipped the first one, didn't I? Okay, release the arm. And the first target area is the right side of the neck. So just let your ear drop to the left ear toward the left shoulder. And you can play around here with rotating the head slightly down or slightly up so that you get the sweet spot in your neck. And we've all got one of those. Or me on my right side, which is my mousing side, I have about 25 sweet spots. All right, so this is target area number 1. Bring the head back up. Target area number 2 is what we did already, so we won't do it again. Here's target area number 3, is go ahead and cross your left arm over, or your right arm over to the left side, and then let this right shoulder drop as you bring your chin down toward your left armpit. And what you want to feel here is the base of the neck, the trapezius on the right side. Below the upper back, really. It's that muscle that connects the upper back to the neck and connects out to the shoulder. So you're purposefully rounding your upper right back, and you can move your chin slightly to one side or the other to feel what head position helps you get into this area the most. Maybe you're dipping your head down more toward your chest, or keeping it a little more upright. All right, go ahead and release, coming up. And now, please come into hands and knees position, and we'll do the actual rolling panda, phase 1, 2, and 3. So phase 1 is to take your right arm under your left, and this looks familiar to many of you, the figure 4, or not the figure 4, the thread the needle pose. But bear with me, because we're just working a little bit differently with this, not so much a twist, but a side bend for the neck. So here's target area number 1, is that you're just getting that same stretch of the neck on the right side without trying to turn the head much. And breathing into this, your left hand could be wherever it feels good, on the ground in front of your face or up over your head. And you can use that left hand to press into the ground a little more and use it as a lever if it feels good. Okay, so phase 2 is to bring it farther through. And this is where we want to feel the posterior deltoid. So take the arm a little farther through and turn the head a little bit more. And you can again play around with your head position so that you feel this upper outer arm, the posterior deltoid. And now your option here for phase 2 and 3 is to take this left leg out to the side like a kickstand, which for some people will help the rotation in the pose to be easier or just make it more satisfying. Others like the more intense twist that you get when you keep both knees on the ground. And now moving into phase 3, bring your chin farther down toward your chest and then as much rotation of the head as you'd like. We're going for a forward bend here more than a twist. And so I'm purposefully showing you from the back because I want you to see that I'm almost in like a half plow pose or half snail pose where I'm really getting my chin down toward my chest more than cranking my neck to the side. And this way, my target area is that trapezius of the left side. And what's key to this is getting this right shoulder farther down away from the ear, getting that space there. So take some time here. You can explore at this point whichever of these phases feels most satisfying to you. And take one additional minute. I always end up with my left hand above my head like this. That feels like the most stable support, but some people like to have the hand behind the back or in a different place, more like on the right side. It's totally up to you what that left hand does. Very good. Slowly release. Back around to hands and knees. And come back up to your sitting position so we can do the target areas and mini stretches from here on the other side. So your left arm comes across and your right hand draws the left arm toward you. I did it again. I did the second target area before the first. So let's go to the first target area. So side of the neck. We'll do them in order this time. Right ear to the right shoulder, left side of the neck stretching. And again, you can play around here with the rotation of the head. Maybe it's looking up a little bit. Maybe that's your sweet spot. Or straight forward or down. And maybe it's the chin coming farther up or down. Feeling and exploring. And this is a yin pose all its own. We're just doing it today as a prep. But you could also do this as its own yin posture. For now, we'll bring the head back up on top of the spine. And now take this left arm across. And now, finally, we get to do phase 2. Just feeling it in this outer posterior deltoid. And I know some people don't feel this at all. If you don't have a lot of arm or upper body tension, some people, I've taught this to, who are just like, what am I supposed to feel? So if that's you, good for you. You don't have a lot of shoulder and upper body tension. These days, with all the device usage, most people feel something on their dominant side at least. And now you can play around with the head, maybe being a little more to the right or chin down to the chest. As you let this left arm drop to the opposite side of the leg, chin toward the chest, and maybe your chin toward the left or toward the right, finding that stretch. Take this right arm up and hold the outside of the shoulder to emphasize this kind of drawing down motion, down and across the body to get into that upper left trapezius. And it's okay to round, or in fact, we want to round the upper back on the left side. All right, bringing it back up and now coming into the rolling panda with the other side, so hands and knees, and then sliding the left arm underneath the right. Phase one, just straight up side neck without trying to bring the head through too much. Right hand can be up here or here. Breathing into this. You can play around with inching your shoulder farther down, getting more space there as much as you want. All right, good. And now let's take the arm a little farther through and optionally take the right leg out to the side to get into the posterior deltoid. So what works best is to, if you can, get some traction of the arm on the ground so that when you pull back a little bit with your left shoulder, then yeah, that's where that stretch comes from. Head position, you can play around with it till you find the right thing. And now that final step, getting into the trapezius by bringing even more space of the left shoulder coming down toward the back foot. Keeping the space between the base of the skull. And so if you can, you're thinking about rolling toward the base of your skull on the ground. And chin is coming toward the right armpit or the right chest, or you can play around with the exact direction and angle of this. Thinking again of this part as more of a forward bend, like if you were to be coming into a sort of diagonal somersault, you're about to roll over, but you're not actually doing it. And now at this point, you can take an extra minute or so to settle into your favorite phase of the pose and rest there. And releasing very slowly back around, hands and knees. And now resting back in child's pose. And feel the effects of this on your upper body, your neck, your shoulders. Resting here in child's pose for 1 minute. Arms in any comfortable position. And for the neck rebound, you might like having your arms down at your sides, or out in front of you, or stacked under the head. Very good. Slowly come on up and come to sit with your legs in front of you. One leg in front of you, half butterfly pose. So take your right leg in front, your left leg bent to your inner upper thigh. Feel free to sit up on something, a pillow, folded blanket, whatever you like to sit on. And come forward over the leg. 3 minutes here in half butterfly. The target area here is the back of the leg, the hamstrings, and also kind of secondarily the spine, the back of the torso. And in addition to whatever support you might have under your seat, you might also be someone who wants to have some kind of support for your arms or your forehead or your torso. And that's completely fine here in Yin, especially people who tend to come a little bit farther forward. So Irma, this is for you, and I know some of you others out there. If you tend to overdo it, then using some support is a good way to get yourself to just have something to soften around rather than just like completely giving in to gravity. If you bend a lot here in the hips, you have a lot more gravity. If you bend more than me, because I don't really go very far, but suddenly the gravity starts to have a greater pull on you and it might feel like too much. Continuing to soften and rest here. Continuing to release and relax into each exhale. All right, slowly release now, coming up, changing sides, move slowly. Right foot can be right up here in the inner thigh, which is sort of the classical alignment, but guess what? Because we like to mess with the rules in Yin Yoga, I will encourage you to experiment with other positions. Some people like to have the foot farther forward, farther back, or this direction. Some people really like this half shoelace, and so it's all up to you. Some folks who, especially people with knee problems or hip problems, sometimes they can't bend the knee in any of those directions, and so you could just have the leg straight out and you get around any knee problems, but still focus on the stretch on one side by coming toward one leg. And some of you are practicing in smoky conditions because of the fires. And like I mentioned in the message that went out to you all earlier this week, we can still have a very deep connection to our breath without breathing deeply, and especially during a time like this, it can be quite helpful to tune into this way that the breath changes when the parasympathetic nervous system is activated, when the body is in a deep state of rest, such as what happens in Yin Yoga, is the breath becomes more refined and less deep, actually. And our awareness tunes into the breath so much that even that subtle, soft breath can be very forward in the mind, can be a very full experience. So as you slowly now come out of this half butterfly pose and slowly lower yourself down onto your back, feel this way that the breath is affected by the yin practice, by the forward bend, which is one of the more relaxing directions to bend in. Notice the subtleness of the breath. And notice the ability of the mind to completely enter into the experience of this breath, to really be there for the whole ride. It can be helpful to rest your hands on your belly during these rebound times if you want to tune in more with the movement of the breath, the movement of the belly or the ribs. And slowly now bend the knees. Hug your knees into your chest. Wrap the arms around the legs and gently rock side to side. Feel the back body. Feel the sacrum. And we'll make our way up to sitting. And so you might enjoy a little forward and backward rolling, or if your spine is not into that, just roll over to one side and then come up to sit. And we will come into half saddle pose. So for half saddle, there's two ways to get into it, starting with the right leg being behind you or next to you, and then coming back maybe here onto the hands, maybe the elbows, maybe resting back on a bolster or pillows, or coming all the way back. Now this is not for everybody. Your knee will tell you if you have gone far enough, but if you get here and this is happening, the knee is off the ground, that's not a problem as long as it's not painful in the knee, or the other place that can get painful is the foot, the top of the foot. So You need to modify by placing stuff under your back, or you can also put a lift under your hips, but just know that if you put a lift under your hips, you have made the ground farther away and you're going to have a more intense back bend if you do lie all the way back. So then you might need extra support under your back. Here's the second and more milder way to get into half saddle, is to come onto your side on your elbow, left side, and then take the right foot up into the hand. So the target area for both variations is the same. It's the quads and the hip flexors on the right leg. And if reaching the foot is difficult, then a strap around the foot, a belt, can be the way to do it. And once you get into this, your option is to stay on the elbow or come down and rest your head maybe on your arm or on a pillow. So 3 minutes here, we're already about a minute into it, and now we will have some options here. If you're on the lying on the back version, you can play around with the angle of the pelvis, and this left leg helps you by being your lever here. You can have this knee open out to the side more. You can have the leg straight. You can draw the knee in toward the chest. Or you can just have the leg straight. Settling into your pose, making any final adjustments, and then finding your place of rest, place of stillness. Very good. Slowly release the pose. You can roll to the left away from the leg to untuck it, or bring yourself up to sitting somehow. And make your way into it on the second side. So if you're doing the side version, you don't have to sit up first. You can just roll to your side and then hold on to the left foot. Or if you're coming up to it, you can come into the other version from here as well. Just let the foot drop back, or you can come into it from that seated position. And as always in Yin Yoga, you can do different things rather than the aesthetic things that we're often told, like, oh, you have to have the hips level here. No, you don't have to have the hips level here. And in fact, if your left hip is popping up, then that's your body's way of saying that you're at the limit of the range of motion of your hip, so that you're not going to hurt your knee. And that's your way of protecting your knee by popping up. And so that's totally okay, as long as you're feeling a stretch in the target area of the left thigh and the front of the hip. And for me, just for instance, I have a little knee pain on this side, so what I'm going to do is bend this knee and let it fall out to the side, and that's going to help me to rotate a little more out of the stretch so that it feels more sustainable. And I don't worry about not doing the same exact pose on both sides. That has been a very liberating thing for me to learn as a yogi. I find that yoga students, and myself included, can worry quite a bit about being uneven, that one side doesn't do what the other side can do, and that there's an imbalance. And the reality is that our skeletons are actually not completely symmetrical. Nobody's skeleton is completely symmetrical. And there are always differences in the tissues from side to side as we work to compensate for the imbalances of the skeleton. So to make space for those differences and to work with the two sides differently is perfectly normal. Continuing to breathe into what you're feeling. And releasing, let the knees come back up or undo the pose somehow to get yourself onto your back for a 1 minute rebound, 1 minute rest, any comfortable position on your back. Eyes can be closed. Jaw soft, hands and feet soft. 1 minute to feel the effects of the pose. Working into the front of the body. That's where we were focused on that last pose. Notice what you feel in the quads, the hip flexors, and the whole front of the body, the whole front channel. And now slowly bring the knees in toward the chest. Lift your head up towards your knees, squeezing into a little ball. Wrap the arms tight around the legs, maybe holding on to opposite elbows. And release your head back down. And feet on the ground coming into spinal twist. Take both hips. Yeah, you lift your hips and move them over to the left. I'm trying to think about how you'd move one hip separately, which is impossible. So anyway, bring the knees up and over toward your right side. And scoot around so you feel balanced here. And then take your right hand onto the outside of the leg and your left arm out to the left side. And feel free to take any of the twisting variations that you might be familiar with as we hold for 3 minutes. Variations abound with what you can do with the arm that's out to the side, the left arm. So you could have it straight out from the shoulder, but you don't have to. You could do a cactus arm with that shoulder. I'll show you on this side. Cactus arm, you could have it straight out, or you could have it behind the head. That can be quite a nice thing to explore, is hand behind the base of the skull, and then the hand can even help to rotate the head in one direction or the other. And now releasing, the knees will come up to the center and slowly shift to the second side. So shifting the knees over to the second side. Right arm out to the right side. And slowly release the twist now, coming into final relaxation position. Make yourself comfortable with your arms and legs spread out as much as you'd like. Any props you'd like to have under the knees or something under the head or something covering your body. And taking this time to invite all of your senses to the party here. Feeling the movement of chi inside of the body, in the muscles, in the joints, in the bones. And though the eyelids are closed, notice the light that comes in. And notice the sounds that are in your environment. And welcoming all the senses to the party. The taste on your tongue, whatever is here. Any sense of pressure or energy or heat moving, radiating through the body. And now taking a deeper breath into the belly and into the heart, and as you exhale, gently wiggle the fingers and toes. Stretch out into your arms and your legs. Bend your knees, roll over onto one side, and come on up into a sitting position. Any comfortable seat where your spine can be tall. And taking 3 breaths in this upright sitting position, feeling the spine at the center, feeling all the sensation and awareness that radiates around this strong column of the spine. And feeling and visualizing the spine as not the straight, rigid object that is sometimes pictured, but instead this swerving, curving, organic column like the stalk of a flower. And your head rising up, the crown of the head like the blossom at the top. And with all this awareness radiating inside around the spine, chant Om with me 3 times, please. So bring your palms together in front of your heart. And we'll chant Om starting with an exhale, just to empty the body and relax. And from this place of space and emptiness, take a gentle inhale. Inhale. And feeling and hearing the reverberation of sound in your space, and imagining the reverberations of our sounds together from all of our various places across the country, joining as one. And I thank you so much for practicing with me today, for sharing this time. Namaste. And stick around if you have a few minutes. We're going to have some post-class discussion that I told you we'd go till 10, so certainly not expected, but you are invited to stick around for a little post-class discussion time. And I want to hear, I have some specific questions for you, so let me allow some unmuting. Okay. There we go. So I want to hear how many of you liked which phase of the rolling panda was your favorite? Because that's a new one. That's an addition to our practice today. So put that in the chat, or feel free to unmute yourself if you want to chime in with your voice. And I'll just remind you, the first phase was the side of the neck, where we didn't roll under into the pose as much. The second phase was the posterior deltoid, the shoulder focus. And then the third focus was the trapezius, the upper back side of the back. So 1, 2, or 3. And now all I have to do is figure out how to see chats on my iPad. All right, Mary says the third phase. Panda neck. Okay, that will be phase 1, Angelique. All the way out with the kickstand thing. So that could be either phase 2 or 3, and with the kickstand leg. But yeah, I like that kickstand leg too. The fourth phase, Carol, what was the fourth phase?
It is the
Oh, I thought you were just, I thought you were making up your own, everyone can have their very own fourth phase of it, yes. All the way out with kickstand, says Christina, okay. Okay, yeah, the first phase is a little bit funny. It's like the face smash. It's like but you can really get a nice side of the neck stretch, especially if you have like scalene stuff. It's just a little bit awkward. Head all the way down, cheek to the floor, says Carrie. So you're a face smasher. You like that first. Yeah. Okay, good. Anyone else? So people are sticking around. That's awesome. And my next question for you, you can continue answering that question if some of you are still typing them in, but I'd love to hear if you have any suggestions for classes, because you are all subscribers to the new site, to Devi Daly Yoga, which still feels new, but we're almost at our 2 months. I launched it on July 18th, so we're actually still just a month and a half in. And so I super appreciate you all being part of it. It's my passion right now. It's a new endeavor. It's a big kind of risk-taking thing to me because it's a huge investment of time and money to create this thing. And it's just so awesome to me that so many of you have jumped on to it with me, because most of you come from my live classes, either Zoom or from various 20 years of teaching before COVID. And so it's a little bit of a different thing. We have this live class, but mostly it's these on-demand classes. So I just want to hear specifically, like, what is the calendar thing working for you? I've gotten some good feedback about it, but I'm also open to critical feedback. This 3 times a week, or this month we're doing 4 times a week. Is the chanting on the calendar working? Are the 1-hour classes on the class, is that too many 1-hour classes? Do you like shorter classes, or what's your ideal time length for the classes? Any of this kind of stuff, this is a great time to let me know what you want to hear. Knees, so we've already heard a number of suggestions for a knee class, and I'm working on that. And I'm also talking to individual people and doing some individual little Zoom clinics. And I think maybe in our, we might do a more group-oriented knee clinic, because I've worked with a lot of people with knee problems, but I really want to do good research before I make a knee class, because there's so many different kinds of knee problems. But anyway, that's coming, Sandy. And I love the calendar, says Mary, but I can't always stay on it, but I still love it. And feel free to chime in with your voice too, if you feel so inclined. Yeah, so it's hard to stay on the calendar. I've done yoga calendars like this too. You miss a day, you miss a few days, you just jump in on the day that it is. It's designed to be not progressive, like I said in the video. I hope you saw the video that I just released a couple days ago, that it's not for you to stress out that you missed September 1st and 2nd, and you just jump in on September 3rd or 4th or 15th or whatever it is. So variety of classes, Pam, good. Yeah, I'm hearing from more people that the yang classes are a good thing. So at first I was like, everybody just wants yin, but there's more and more of you asking for more yang. So that's exciting for me, because I wasn't sure how much interest there was in that. And Bill is trying to figure out the calendar, you say. You prefer the live classes, and you like hip opening, back bending, and anterior hip. Okay, very good. I hear you. And Anne, you haven't used it as much, but you want September to work. So yeah, you can just jump in, Anne, starting with this class you're doing, and then starting on Monday, we have a chanting thing. And let me see, what else is there to say? And the variety of lengths of classes is what I'm hearing from, that people like the variety of lengths. So I tend toward these hour-long classes. There's a lot of those on there. But I'm working on learning how to teach shorter classes, because people like them. And I actually like them. When I do online classes, I like 30 and 40-minute classes. So That's one of my learning curves. All right, well, I so appreciate your feedback, everybody, and yes to different length classes. I'm very excited. I have a new microphone on order. I had this one falling off of my face the whole time. I switched from this. My lavalier mic that I had has been having this hiss sound. You might have noticed that in recent classes, and I just have to get a new one. So I'm like $600 for a good mic. It's going to be a really good one though, and it's going to sound super pro. So I'm very excited, and that is coming soon. So this is the last class I'm going to do with poor audio, or it's not that bad. I mean, there's a lot of really bad audio going on in the in the online yoga world. I'm a little bit of an audio geek. So, all right, everyone, thank you so much for joining today. We'll do it again first Saturday of the month, and there may be more live offerings coming up. I'm still sort of tweaking it all. Love you all. Namaste.